Okay, I have now set up my dragon to automatically shoot fireballs. So he waits about 10 seconds before starting, and okay, there's one. That was awkward, but here. So I don't yet have the animation set up where it's animating the dragon like he's spitting. Um, I have that sprite, I just haven't implemented it yet. Um, so it locks in on the last frame and starts from there and rotates the sprite so it's always angling at at the direction it's moving. Um, and so every 4 seconds it fires it off. So let me walk you through how this works. So first I set up the sprites and I used guidelines to make uh, just to get a break every 50 pixels, and so I made the little animation that I want to use. I created that into a sprite, and so I have that there. And then I created a fireball object for this, and when it gets created, well, uh, we see that the object fireball pulls the fireball sprite automatically. But what we need to do now is to tilt the sprite so it's aiming in the same direction that it's moving, so it looks more realistic. I had to look all of this stuff up, so you should be totally prepared to have to Google an awful lot to figure this out. But basically, I wanted to start the sprite, but you see, this where I want to start the sprite depends on which way he's facing. So here, let me actually pull up one of these dragon sprites. Um, so when he's flying to the right, uh, this is the 0, 0 position. So normally this the fireball would start right there. Um, so if I'm traveling right, um, if my horizontal speed, my h speed is positive, then I want the fireball to spawn right here, which is starting from the XY position, which is the top left. I want the pretty much the width of the sprite, and then around 70% down. And so around here would be fine for the fireball to start. And so, but if I'm going left and he's facing this way, then I would want the x coordinate is fine. I just move down the same 70% to this side. So what that looks like here is that when the fireball gets started, so when you create it, uh, transform the sprite and turn it so we're rotating. And this is a method that I looked up, point direction, and this is the direction from this location, the x-axis plus the width of the sprite, and then you can see over here times 70% of the height. Well, right, and so times 70% the height. So this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis of where it's coming from, and this is where it's going to. And I just point it towards the object knight. And so this is the second set of parameters. So it's x, y of where it's starting from, and then x, y where it's aiming to, and that's how it rotates the dragon. I'm sorry, the fireball. And so, and then I have it moving in that direction. So move towards the knight. So this rotates the sprite so it looks like it's aiming towards the knight, and this makes it move towards the knight. Um, so every frame, every step of the game, I'm looking to check if my image index is equal to 5, and that's if the sprite in my animation is equal to the last one. And so once it hits to this one, I just want it to stay there. So it'll fly through the air in this form, and it'll start out with that. So so once it's there, they can change the sprite to that and with no speed. And so it'll just keep on locking into that sprite. And then once it's outside of the room, destroy it, so you don't have to keep track of it anymore. Okay, so now let's see what's making the fireball get triggered. So this is what happens once it's triggered, and now over in the dragon, we as soon as he's created, I start an alarm at the room speed, so that's 30 frames per second, so that's 30 times 10, and so that equates to 10 seconds. So so in 10 seconds, do this stuff, and this just figures out if I'm going, if my H speed is positive, i.e. if I'm going right, then create the fireball at the same thing. So at the X position, starting where my dragon is, plus the width of the sprite, and then move down 70%. So create the fireball around where my mouth is as a dragon moving to the right. And if I'm moving to the left, then create it, the X-axis will do fine, just scoot down 70%. So, yeah. And then what I do, as soon as this is somewhat recursive, as soon as I'm done with this, I call the alarm back again at whatever the room speed is times whatever the difficulty is. And the difficulty is just so one number that I can change in order to, so the smaller this is, the less time there is between fireballs. So that could be one way to scale the difficulty in the future. So that's pretty much it. This is the step is just controlling the motion as shown in another video, and all I do is trigger an alarm, and that alarm just keeps calling itself. And so so every 4 seconds we get that fireball. And now what I'll do next is start working on what happens when the knight collides with it, and what happens once the it gets knocked back to the dragon. So I'll have you being able to attack the fireball, and then it'll turn around and head towards the dragon. But anyway, we'll talk about that another time.